Well, welcome to Black Gumbo Southern Gardening. There's not a lot going on in the garden. Things are really slow. That's kind of to be expected at this time of the year, but I've got a few empty spots that I thought I'd fill in with some of my leftover plants, and I thought I'd just bring you along. Well, today I thought I'd give you just a little bit of a garden tour of what's out here in the garden in the fall in Zone 9A, technically the winter. And we've got some things left over from summer. We've got our seedlings that are coming up, and I've got good news on my carrots that in my last video I thought they weren't going to come up. Well, they're coming up. But I've also got a lot of spare plants, and I don't want them to go to waste. And I have a little bed right here, a little raised bed. I want to talk about raised beds a little bit. Well, this little raised bed right here is about 3 years old, and I've got my starts sitting out here that came up, and well, it's time to put some things in here. But first I want to talk a little bit about what makes up a good raised bed, and why would you use a raised bed to begin with. I've got all this space out here. I could put garden out there, but I have heavy clay soil, black gumbo clay, and it's not really suitable unless you work it real well with amendments, and that takes time and effort and money. A little raised bed like this could be made for very inexpensive. I've just got some 2x12s, and I made a 6 foot long and what is that, maybe 2.5 feet wide bed. This bed is going to last about 6-7 years before these boards need to be replaced. And you fill it with a very loose gardening soil that drains well. And what you'll find is that these things you can grow in right away, and you can keep them amended well. And with a lot of organic material in here, your plants grow quite nicely. I've grown garlic in here, I've grown herbs in here, I've grown flowering plants in here, and most recently I grew about 9 foot tall okra plants right here, and they did well. So I got all these guys here that are left over. I've already put in some bunching onions. I'm going to put in some more because I like bunching onions. I might plug in some dill and maybe some leeks and see if they'll grow in this soil. This is got a lot of organic material in it. You can't have too much organic material on top of your beds, but once you get down into the soil, sometimes a whole lot of organic material down in there is going to work against you a little bit. It's counterintuitive, but it's true that your plants need the minerals too, and mineralization is important. I've also got ants in here, and that's no fun. Fire ants are no fun. Well, let's get some things planted. These bunching onions will grow well. They'll get huge, 2-3 feet high. So you want to give them a little bit of space. I'm just going to make a little hole here. I'm going to put some more of those in. Bunching onions, green onions. For me, I've grown them 2 years in a row, and some of them will just keep on growing and last you quite a long time. These were started from seeds. Kitazawa seeds is where I got these. They're a Japanese variety, though don't ask me what the variety is. I've long forgotten. I've gathered seeds from them, and they're real easy. You just drop them in, cover up the base, and there we go. Bunching onions don't have to be separated. If you watched my leek video, we planted some of these leeks, and some leeks from the store, like these guys here. They do need to be separated. After all, you're growing single leeks, and you want them to get nice and big. But these bunching onions, you just plant them in one spot, and they'll just happily grow for you right there. What else do I want to put in here? Maybe try some leeks. I've got leeks in the main bed, but I've got these that I started from seed, and I might want to grow these in this soil and see if it works. So let's do that. Gardening on a day like today. Today's kind of a overcast and muggy day. It raises my spirits. I get out here and hang out with my plants. And there's just something about that I enjoy. You know, this is going to be difficult, are you? See if we can pull this leek out. Yeah. Now again, if you saw my leek planting video, you can plant a leek bare root like this. Let's see if I can get this hole a little bit deeper. I want to plant the leek up to about where the leaves start to separate. And they'll happily grow for you like the onions. I didn't lose a single leek from my planting over there, which is surprising. You know, usually, kind of the law of averages, you lose something. But we've got a good thing going here. Let's see if I can get this one out. There we go. I'll just drop this in a hole over here. It's a little bit bigger plug than that hole will fit. So let's see. Here's another single. Yeah, this raised bed has been home to a number of different plants, and it's been very successful for me. It gets about, well, I'm trying to think. It gets about 8 hours of sun a day. And that's enough for most of your vegetables. All right, we've got a few more leeks planted. Let's see what else we can plant. I've got some dill, and I really like dill. So I'm going to try to get this out in a plug. These are stuck in here pretty good. I'm going to plant some dill in this garden. Fresh dill is one of the joys of gardening, in my opinion. Let's see, will that pop out? Oh, barely. There we go. It's all root bound. I enjoy dill. I'm not sure that dill is a companion plant to leeks, but we're going to put it in anyway and just see what happens. I need to tell you a funny story. If you follow my Instagram, my personal Instagram, and some of you do, I had a situation where I took a photo of my daughter and her husband and my son Samuel saying goodbye to Phoebe because my daughter was here visiting from out of state for Thanksgiving. And wouldn't you know it, the way that I worded my post misled people, not intentionally, but people were saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry for your loss. We're going to miss Phoebe." Because the picture, I guess, looked like they were giving Phoebe her last goodbye, as if she were going to be put down or something. And so that was my mistake, of wording it in a way that was not very clear. But it was kind of funny. I would have let you know a different way if there was anything wrong with Phoebe. So I had to take that post down and repost it with a new caption. Okay. Well, I have two more spots over here, and I have some different cabbages. Cabbages will get real big. I don't know if I can fit I could fit. There is a cabbage I could fit in here. I have some Hilton, which is kind of like a Chinese cabbage. It's kind of like a Savoy cabbage, and they're a little more cylindrical and tall than they are wide and round. So I'll plant some of that. Now, I don't remember if this is it right here because the label's gone. Let me go look at my other tray. Okay, I did find some little Hilton cabbages here, so we're just going to plug these in. And these will grow more vertical than a traditional round heading cabbage. They'll get pretty big if you let them, but we can harvest them small if we need to. So this just takes up some more space out here in my garden and makes use of the plants that I had left over. And yeah, bunching onions, I know those will do well. The leeks, I don't know how well they'll do in this soil. It'd be interesting to compare them to the ones in the main bed. The dill has grown here before really, really well, and these cabbages should like this soil as well. Let's take a look around and see what else is growing. Well, the first bed, I've got my cauliflower, and it's doing well. I need to thin that. There's two plants there. Yeah, looking good. Now here's the good news. Down here, we had so much rain in the carrot bed, but you can see the little carrots are coming up. That's what carrots look like when they come up. Just like that, little wispy things. And you can tell because they're all in a row. We planted them in rows. My son and I came out, and we did not do the broadcast method that I was planning on maybe trying. So yeah, you can see where the water has pooled up over here. But they came up. I have never used the sow your carrot seeds and cover them with cardboard or a tarp or a piece of wood until they sprout. Never done that. They just come up. Here's my leeks that we planted. They haven't grown much, but they are all established. Some of them are still falling down, but they're all green. That's good. And here we have some cabbage. This variety is a vertical cabbage. It's called granat, and I've never tried it before, but it's supposed to be a delicious cabbage, a non-heading cabbage. So you pick the leaves kind of like you would on a kale plant. Got 3 purple cabbages here. They'll fill in that space nicely when they get large. Turnips coming up well. Almost time to thin them. And actually I think that's turnips and that's pak choi. And then over there we've got another cabbage bed. We've got some broccoli. The first 4 stations of broccoli and the others down there are heading cabbage. A flat Dutch heading cabbage. Yeah, and everything's growing well, healthy. I've kind of got on top of the weeds a bit with my trusty stirrup hoe right here. You know, we just come through when you see weeds, you give them a bit of a scuffle. And that has managed to get the weeds out of all the open areas. Wonderful little tool. Well, I've learned something about rosemary that I didn't know before. Back in the 1600s in England, they didn't have Christmas trees, but they did celebrate Christmas. And what they would often do is gather up anything green that remained in the garden in December. And rosemary was one of those. And they would take all this rosemary and decorate the house with it, and it would bring that wonderful smell. So this is a smell that back in those days was really associated with the Christmas feast. So I recommend to you a video series that you can find on YouTube about what it was like to live on a farm in those days. And it's called Tales from the Green Valley. If you search that up, you'll find 12 episodes. And it is 5 experts in history and archaeology and things like that, cooking, who live in period clothes with everything they had back then and nothing that they have in the modern times. Fascinating, especially the various gardening and homesteading information that you can glean from that. Wonderful show, recommend it. That's where I learned about this. That is some awesome rosemary. It smells so good. It has been so rainy. Everything is wet and it's muggy. But the plants like that kind of weather, even if we don't. We had a tornado warning, like tornadoes on the ground near our house on Thanksgiving Day. That makes for some interesting holiday feasting, huh? Let me show you something in my pallet here near my compost bins. I don't know if you can see down there, but there's a huge opossum, and we call that opossum Big Baby. Yeah, I don't think you can see Big Baby down there. Big Baby has been living in this area since he was a little guy, and I've pet him and kind of got to know him, and he drives Phoebe out of her mind. That's why Phoebe's not outside right now. When Big Baby is right down there, Phoebe gets right on the other side of that pallet and barks. And we don't want an altercation, or Phoebe might not make Employee of the Month next month. Checking on my apple trees. Looks like they're not wanting to drop their leaves. Sometimes you have to force strip these apple trees of their leaves to kind of impose dormancy on them. But because it's so warm in our area, sometimes these trees don't drop their leaves. Hey there, little brown anole. Invasive species right there. Yeah, blackberries over here are doing really well. We'll be able to prune these up come the spring, get the dead cane out. These sweet potatoes are starting to die off. Hopefully we'll find some roots down in there. If you didn't notice, I got a new microphone. Tuned it up and hopefully getting some good clean sound. The challenge with it is, well, it clips on my shirt in an unusual way. There's weight there and it draws my shirt down. I have enough trouble minimizing my belly. Hey, reality, right? We are who we are. Well, hey, if you enjoy our channel and our content, please subscribe and like our videos, even share them if you feel so moved. And well, we garden here, backyard gardening. What you saw today, it's what we do. And as I've said in other videos, I don't teach a whole lot sometimes on some of these videos where we just putter around the garden, but many of you correct me in the comment section, say you taught me a lot. Maybe you learned something today. Hey, I'm Scott. Thanks for joining me on Black Gumbo Southern Gardening. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.